Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece Chapter 947. So the chapter starts off with a flashback to Sop Aori, where basically Rayleigh had freed the point in that story where Rayleigh had freed Kami, and with that flashback, it's essentially telling us that Luffy did the exact same thing with basically Hyo's restraints. And honestly, I'm willing to go a step further than pretty much that, and say that in effect, what pretty much makes destroying something from the inside out even possible is that in both cases, I'd say that what both Luffy and Rayleigh had done they essentially they basically negated the ability of the collar. So if this whole power if this particular hockey technique is based on the concept of pretty much negating power, imagine what would happen if Luffy was to use this same power on a living being, say Kaido, for example. He could effectively negate the latter's devil fruit power, or at the very least weaken it enough to the point where Luffy could use the hockey wave technique, and in that sense of a weakened Kaido, it would make the hockey wave technique even more effective. And I think it's obvious Oda is setting up these two techniques as being the hockey technique of pretty much a shield and a sword, because in a lot of ways with the whole concept of destroying something from within, that of course it's definitely a defensive technique, and it could be considered like a shield in hockey. Whereas with the hockey wave technique, it's very much an offensive ability, so it can be considered almost like the sword. So yeah, I mean I'm probably overthinking it at this point, but in a way it does feel like Oda is kind of doing a bit of a sword and a shield thing with these two hockey techniques almost. And we definitely got progress, and of course we definitely got progress on that with Luffy developing the shield technique. Not so much the sword, with the hockey wave technique itself, which, yeah, in terms of Luffy developing the hockey wave technique, it did not go the way I thought it would. But on the plus side, on the other side of that, we pretty much ended up getting a lot more with Queen, which I'm happy with. And oh yeah, the big doofus's plan in order to take Big Mom out, it did very little. In fact, the only thing it did do is help Big Mom regain her memory. So that's just the very definition of fail on Queen's part. And if you add that to the fact that Big Mom's been basically taken to Kaido, I think this more or less confirms that an unlikely alliance is going to be formed, and I feel we're also getting to the. I feel what's happening here now is basically all the set pieces are lined up perfectly in order to finally learn what Big Mom's history with Kaido actually is, as well which of course, as we know, ever since hearing the fact that pretty much the two of them were more or less crewmates on the same ship, that's been something we've been more or less open ears for. Like that's something we're definitely waiting in the wings in order for Oda to dish out on us. So yeah, I think with the fact that pretty much Big Mom is being taken to Kaido, I think this is already setting up the pieces on the board to say that yeah, we're kind of nearing the point of getting that backstory now, and yeah, I can't wait. Also, I will admit when I initially read this chapter, I did find myself in that weird place again where I was debating if the fight was too short But then I quickly remember that this particular fight, it wasn't really a fight, and was just more of a strategy in order to incapacitate Big Mom. And B, Queen is stronger than Luffy and his crew, so obviously he'd have a little less trouble in just kind of in trying to knock her out. And also in her ravenous hunger stage, it's probably even easier. But even knowing all that, I just laughed. I just laughed out loud how, in the end, Big Mom just sort of took herself out, and Queen's attempt again, just Queen's entire attempt in order to take Big Mom out. It wasn't worth Jack outside of again helping her in regaining her memory. Um, and I guess from here, in terms of Big Mom having regained her memory, it's really gonna be like what particular part of this is, what particular parts is she pretty much gonna keep, and what parts is are gonna be like lost on her, and she's gonna end up. And she's gonna end up completely different as to how she was before. Like I think the obvious thing, more than often than not, is again that from Big Mom is gonna be a lot more hostile towards towards Luffy and the Straw Hats at this point. But again, it feeds into the unlikely alliance bit that I think she's gonna be forced to swallow her pride and say, okay, let's team up. Let's squash the bullshit for just this once, and kind of team up in order to take on Kaido. But obviously that's gonna happen. Although I'm curious to know if her little promise to her promise to that village is gonna remain intact, and if she's gonna follow through with that. Because I mean, I want to assume it's still gonna happen. But I think Big Mom is gonna have enough empathy in order to follow through with that for sure. Um, having said all that, I hope now having said all that, I'm now having said all that. When it comes to the whole thing of when it comes to the whole thing of the pacing of these fights, I'm hoping. I'm hoping the reason that these fights have been ending so quickly is more because Oda is more because of the reasons I've already laid out, and that Oda is taking into consideration the pretty much strength of both Big Mom and Queen and Kaido's crew in general. Or if it's something else, because I will admit, it is still early to tell, but between last week's chapter and this chapter, I have noticed a pattern of Oda just really kind of rushing through these fights, and I'm hoping what the situation is that Oda's editor has been kind of just keeping. Has been kind of telling him that look, you really just kind of need to move forward with this arc. You just kind of need to pick up the pace a little, so you might need to sacrifice the fights. I'm hoping that isn't the case, and that it's more like how I laid out, but I wouldn't, I don't know for sure. I hope the quick pacing of these fights is only in just this scenario is what I'm hoping for. Now the chapter ends with a fight setup of Luffy preparing to fight Babanuki. And well, I'm gonna reserve complete judgment until his fight plays out. If Luffy does harness the power of the Hockey Wave, I wouldn't be surprised if this fight is the one where he actually ends up unlocking it. In fact, it would actually make, in the weirdest of ways, it would make the most sense considering it would make the most sense. It would make the most sense considering considering Oda would kind of be setting up a parallel to setting up a weird kind of parallel to the first time that we see Rayleigh using this technique, which just so happened to be against an elephant. But in this case, it's Luffy. It's Luffy who's fighting someone with an elephant's zone power. So yeah, it's one of those things where if this is the fight where Luffy ends up unlocking that hockey technique, then it would make the most sense if we're paralleling what happened at the end of the pre-time skip to pretty much this fight. Like it would weirdly make the most sense if Oda ended up doing that. But until it actually. But now, whether or not that turns into the actual scenario, again, I'm not sure. But again, if it does, it seems like the most likely, because it's just one of those things that just weirdly makes sense if you look at the parallels of Rayleigh using this technique against an elephant, and now Luffy's using it against someone with elephant powers. It weirdly makes sense. I don't know. Let's tell you. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Mr. Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.